Golden Freddy is an enigma of the FNAF universe. They're the most mysterious animatronic, yet still a favorite to a load of people. Maybe it's because they're so mysterious, or maybe it's because people like golden, shiny things. I get that last part. But nevertheless, there are still some uncertain aspects of Golden Freddy's confusing history. One that we thought we solved, however, was the name of the one possessing him. But could we have been wrong this whole time? Those possibilities are what we're exploring today. Let's do it. In a 10, Crying Child. Okay, now this one is certainly going to be a bit controversial, but there is no way that I could have done this list without mentioning one of the greatest debates of my DMs ever. I say this every time I bring it up. I don't think that the Crying Child's death was a spring lock failure, and I firmly believe that they are the one you should not have killed, meaning that they're the vengeful spirit possessing Afton and keeping him alive instead of being inside Golden Freddy. But with that being said, it's still possible that I'm wrong, okay? I'm man enough to admit it, and that's what this list is all about. Well, possibilities, not me being wrong. The idea that Crying Child is the one possessing Golden Freddy comes from the idea that the Fredbear animatronic that kills him in 1983 is converted into Golden Freddy come FNAF 1 in 1993, either because the springlock suits got decommissioned despite this not being a springlock failure, and then the Golden Freddy suit is just a shell, or because Afton didn't want to look at the thing that killed his son. And while this is a possibility, we know that Crying Child didn't actually die in the mouth of the suit. He died because of his head being crushed, yes, but he dies in the hospital as proven by the flatline at the end of FNAF 4. But I mean, everyone's gonna be mad at me for saying this anyway, so I guess I'm just not gonna read the video comments. In at 9, Jeremy Fitzgerald. At the end of every FNAF game, there's a bonus night. Then it gives you more lore clues, then it gives you more scares. But then after beating that one, you unlock a 7th night where you can customize the animatronics and give them like specific levels to see how hard you can really make it for yourself. However, if you were to do this in Five Nights 1, you'd obviously be looking for more clues, trying to figure out like the first in what would be an incredible series of games. If you tried to solve this though by being sneaky and inputting the animatronic levels to be 1, 9, 8, and 7, the year of the infamous bite, or at least the first one, you'd end up getting instantly jump scared by Golden Freddy, which, while hilarious, is still creepy and unexpected. I mean, like, I get that Scott wanted to shut rumors down about there being like a secret camera or something, but like, why couldn't this just be a normal night? That's proved them wrong because it wasn't real. Like, what if someone wanted to actually have those levels for whatever reason, and then boom, they get spooked by Golden Freddy instantly? It's kinda rude, okay? But it's also interesting to think that the year 1987 would summon Golden Freddy. If you end up thinking about it, and end up thinking about it too much probably, that this could be an implication that Golden Freddy caused the bite of 87, and that Jeremy Fitzgerald, who we play as in FNAF 2, who many assume to be the bite victim, could be the one possessing the animatronic. At least if we ignore that the missing children's incident takes place 2 years prior. In at 8, Multiple. The prevalent theory for Golden Freddy is that the animatronic is actually possessed by 2 souls. This idea comes from the survival logbook and the FNAF 3 bad ending 2-eye theory. The 2-eye theory states that in the FNAF 3 bad ending there are 2 eyes lit up in the head in the back, which we are assuming is Golden Freddy, to show that there are 2 souls in the animatronic. Well, with regards to the 2-eye theory at least, that's incorrect. You see, it would actually be more difficult to tell that the thing in the back was an animatronic head if there was only 1 eye lit up, since all we see of this head are the eyes, and the light comes out of the other eye just due to the reflection of the first light, since it's that dark. Notice how Freddy also has some light coming out of his other eye. You can't really ignore how light works in this situation, okay? It's just like a fundamental law of everything. Plus, Crying Child, who many assume to be the second spirit, hadn't been introduced into the series yet, not coming until the next game that wasn't even going to happen originally, since this was supposed to be the bed of the series. That's why we released the souls in the Happiest Day minigame. And notice that there's only one person wearing a Golden Freddy mask in the minigame. If there were 2 spirits that were intended at this stage, wouldn't there have been 2 kids wearing the mask? I mean, it was supposed to be the end after all. And according to the official Freddy Files Updated Edition book, quote, you'll see an image of broken animatronic heads, each with a lit eye. 1. In at 7, Phone Guy. Phone Guy's death is one of the most mysterious deaths of all time. We hear him die in FNAF 1 on night 4 with the sounds of multiple animatronics banging on his doors, but we never really get an explanation as to what happens to him. I mean, like, we know he dies, but other than that, it's all speculation. One of the theories is that the animatronics ended up getting him and shoving him into a suit, resulting in a painful death, especially since at this point the springlock suits were either still in operation or hadn't really been totally removed. I don't know, the actual timeline of events for the Springlock suits is a little messy still, since we don't really have the years for things like them getting scrapped. Yet it's still possible that Phone Guy was shoved into one, or maybe used it to hide from them and then it failed. However, another theory is that he gets killed by Golden Freddy, which could mean that he might end up possessing the animatronic. We have to get the whole shadow animatronics thing somehow, right? Plus, we very clearly hear Golden Freddy in the recording of Phone Guy just before he dies, suggesting that they had a prominent part in his demise. I mean, like, it's highly unlikely, but honestly, Phone Guy is more important to us than Cassidy does, so it could make more sense. At least, if this wasn't after the missing children's incident. And at 6, random. Honestly, there's also a slim chance that this is just a random kid that Afton killed in the incident, and they just haven't been named yet. And that this whole time we've been like being fed red herrings just to keep us talking about the series now that games aren't coming out every 3 months. And honestly, that's nothing new. Companies use that kind of marketing all the time to increase hype and discussion without really having to spend any money. I mean, look at how No Way Home was marketed, okay? I don't know how anyone would have gotten a picture of Andrew Garfield on set like that without anyone noticing, or without being connected to the company, okay? Like, in my opinion, that leaked image of him in the final fight scene had to be intentional. But the posters they were also releasing were just horrifying to start with. I mean, like, the first picture looked like something I would have made in high school, but I would have done a better job, okay? But I mean, no matter what, it worked. We were talking about how bad the poster was, and then every new poster that they had released after because they were of the same quality. And not even just nerd or news channels. Even Photoshop channels were remaking the poster in better quality. They never had to spend a dime to get us talking about that, and by making worse posters, they probably spent less on the graphics budget for those as well. So the possibility of Golden Freddy being revealed to have been possessed by a random person we've never heard of isn't out of the realm of possibility for me, alright? It could happen. Plus, it's definitely like Scott to do that. Halfway through into number 5, Kelsey. Kelsey is in essence the main antagonist of the Fazbear Frights story The New Kid from the 3rd Fazbear Frights book 135 AM. Kelsey had just moved to town and ends up making friends with the protagonist, Devin. Devin ends up getting jealous of how much everyone loves Kelsey, so he hatches a plan with his friend to trap him in a Springlock suit for a few hours, because, you know, that wouldn't result in death normally. However, when they unleash their plan, the Springlock suit fails and kills Kelsey. I don't know how you were planning to lock him in there if you weren't going to use the actual spring locks, but okay. But at least they thought he was dead, since a week later Devin returns to make sure that Kelsey is still in the suit, only to find a different body inside. He knows that it's someone else because the hair color is different, and then Devin gets stuck and bleeds out, only for the story to cut back to Kelsey meeting 2 more kids at his new school. Yeah, it's an interesting story because while Kelsey did get spring locks, he ends up being fine, so what really happened? Some think that Kelsey is a ghost, some think that he's the one that you should not have killed, but no matter what, we all feel like there is a high possibility that Kelsey was at least at one point possessing Golden Freddy, whether it be before the missing children's incident, afterwards, hell, maybe Kelsey possessing an animatronic is what made Afton realize that they were all possessed. Honestly, it's unknown, but given that we didn't really get a name for Golden Freddy's spirit on a grave and instead found it in a book, I guess you could say that the name Cassidy isn't set in stone. Ha, get it? You're welcome. And at 4, nobody. The thing about hallucinations is that they're not real. And we haven't really seen Golden Freddy on any of the cameras at any point in this series. We've only seen him randomly show up in the office, even if the doors are closed and he doesn't move. The hallucinations we see are potentially because of him, but in FNAF 3, we see that those phantom animatronics are also hallucinations that are caused thanks to systems malfunctioning. And that's in a facility 30 years after the first game. So, what if Golden Freddy just isn't real? What if these are all just hallucinations that Michael is seeing due to a poor working environment and, you know, a lot of stress, and then they manifest as a version of the animatronic he feels the most guilty about because it killed his brother? I mean, it makes sense. The "it's me" would be about the animatronic. Like, it's me, the one who killed your brother, back to haunt you even more. Or it could just be him assuming that his brother would be possessing the animatronic like how the others are possessed. It would explain why we never see a physical manifestation other than in our office with obvious additional hallucinations, and it would explain why the animatronic's past is so mysterious and odd, because they aren't real. They were discontinued after FNAF 4's Bite, maybe because it was too hard for William, and it would explain why the logbook that we figured was intended to give us his name was also full of hallucinations, and why it was very clearly originally meant for Mike. Huh. Maybe I should look into that one more. It would also actually let Cassidy be the one you should not have killed, because they couldn't be possessing Golden Freddy, because Golden Freddy wouldn't be real. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Shadow Freddy. One of the oldest theories in existence, or at least FNAF 2 wise, is that the shadow animatronics are the first Springlock victims. This comes to us after the FNAF 3 phone guy dialogue that mentioned multiple and simultaneous Springlock failures, which some interpreted as multiple Springlock suits failing at once, since the term Springlock in this situation could be used to describe the suit as a whole, or the individual Springlock mechanisms that are present within the suit. So the line of multiple and simultaneous Springlock failures could mean multiple of the Springlocks inside a suit failing at the same time, or more than one suit failing at the same time. This led some to theorize that previous employees were killed in the Springlock suits, which is where the shadow animatronics come from. This is supported by the fact that these shadows are of Freddy and Bonnie, the two animatronics that have Springlock versions. However, the other popular theory is that these are spirits who were at one point possessing their respective animatronics and got kicked out for whatever reason. This is kind of where that theory idea falls apart, because there are multiple explanations as to why they were kicked out. Some say they weren't as angry as the next ones, others say that they didn't suffer as much agony, others say it's cause the one who came next simply didn't want to share. But nonetheless, despite the improbability, it's possible and thus can be on this list. Penultimately, in at number 2, Michael Brooks. Golden Freddy is a major character within the Silver Eyes, where unlike in the games, he's possessed by a boy named Michael Brooks. In the Silver Eyes, he's also implied to be the mascot suit used to lure children away into the back rooms. Michael Brooks is a secondary protagonist in the Silver Eyes, the Twisted Ones, and in the Fourth Closet, and he's one of the children killed in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and is actually a childhood friend of Charlie. Michael is a little kid with a round face and rosy cheeks with brown wide eyes that glisten and short brown hair. Remember that one. He wears a blue t-shirt and was actually friends with the protagonists of the novel. He's actually also described as a kind and friendly person with all people in the school, despite seemingly being 5 years old at the time of the missing children's incident, since Charlie was killed at 3 years old in 1983, and assuming that they were all the same age. But one day, while he was in Freddy Fazbear's with his friends, William comes in, kidnaps him, kills him, you know the deal. But then 10 years later, his parents decide to commemorate the anniversary of his tragedy and make a scholarship dedicated to a 5-year-old kid. Interesting choice. However, notice that Michael, like I said, is described as having brown hair. And in FNAF 4, we see what is possibly a tuft of brown hair poking out of the torso of a fatter yellow animatronic. Yeah, maybe more than one Michael was subjected to William's torment. And like I said, we didn't see Golden Freddy's name on the actual grave, we only got it in what would be their name in a random book. So I mean, come on. Mike's name was also in that book. Just saying. And finally, in number 1, Cassidy. I know that I've basically been saying Golden Freddy's identity isn't guaranteed this entire time, and while technically it isn't, Cassidy is typically seen as the de facto possessor of Golden Freddy, although some also view her as the one you should not have killed, aka the one possessing Afton and keeping him alive so that he can suffer. But again, if that was the case, she wouldn't be able to possess both Golden Freddy and William. So for those of you who think both, you kinda gotta pick one. However, Cassidy's name was revealed in the FNAF Survival Logbook, an activity book with a kind of like wreck this journal vibe that seemed innocent enough at first. However, as you went through the book, you'd notice that a few things were off. There'd be random tally marks on certain pages, other pages had numbers that were highlighted in red and had the incorrect page number, and then there also seemed to be a spirit writing to us in faded text. Later on in the book, we would also see words getting switched around, and we would actually notice the repeated use of Golden Freddy's signature line of "It's me." By using the highlighted numbers as coordinates in the goddamn word search for whatever reason, we would end up spelling the name Cassidy, and then everyone's like, yep, this is Golden Freddy's name, and it's just accepted now, despite the only real connection to Golden Freddy in this book being the "It's me" line, and other odd references. But after seeing 9 other options, that makes sense, for this character's actual identity, do you still think that it's Cassidy? Be sure to let me know down below, alright? If you do it respectfully, at least. Thank you all so much for watching, that's all the time we have for today. You're done, bye, I'm leaving. I'm Connor, bye, you know me.